When we think of a trap, we picture a physical mechanism designed to snap shut the moment an unsuspecting victim steps into it. Once caught, your movements are no longer your own. The machine dictates what happens next. But the most dangerous trap in human history isn't made of iron or steel. It is built from fear, pride, and the cold logic of power. It is a psychological cage that catches entire civilizations, stripping leaders of their agency until they feel forced to march toward a catastrophe they can see coming, yet are powerless to avoid. Political scientists call it the Thucydides Trap. The phrase comes from the ancient Greek historian Thucydides, who chronicled the devastating war between Athens and Sparta nearly 2,500 years ago. His most famous observation was simple, cold, and unsettling. The rise of Athens and the fear that this instilled in Sparta made war inevitable. Notice that he didn't blame a specific treaty, a rogue general, or a sudden insult. He blamed a dynamic. The trap springs when a rapidly rising power threatens to displace an established dominant power. But the real mechanism is structural stress. It creates a security dilemma, a vicious cycle where every defensive action taken by one side is interpreted as an offensive threat by the other. Fear multiplies faster than facts. Look at the ancient world. After the Persian Wars, Athens grew wealthy, built a massive navy, and transformed into the cultural powerhouse of the Aegean. They weren't looking for war, they were simply expanding naturally. But Sparta, the old military giant, watched this growth with increasing alarm. The Spartans didn't just fear Athens' navy, they feared what Athens represented: change and the erosion of their own dominance. Suddenly, the space for diplomacy narrowed. Neither leader could afford to look weak to their domestic audience. Entangling treaties meant that minor conflicts between small allies, like Corinth and Corcyra, acted as catalysts, dragging the superpowers into a fight they weren't ready for. The options for peace slowly vanished until the only door left open was conflict. In 431 BCE, the trap snapped shut. The Peloponnesian War exploded, devastating the Greek world for decades. This is a recurring pattern of human behavior under pressure. Harvard scholar Graham Allison analyzed 16 historical cases where a rising power challenged a ruling one. The data is chilling. 12 of those 16 cases ended in war. Today, analysts apply this exact framework to the rivalry between the United States and China. As China's influence expands, the same structural stress emerges. The dominant power sees the rising state as aggressive. The rising state sees the dominant power as paranoid and obstructive. But war is not a mathematical certainty. History also gives us the 4 times the trap failed to spring. At the turn of the 20th century, Great Britain and a rising United States managed a peaceful transition of global leadership through diplomacy and shared ties. Today, nuclear deterrence and deep economic interdependence act as powerful counterweights the ancients never had. The real danger of the Thucydides trap is that it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If leaders convince themselves that conflict is inevitable, they behave more aggressively, narrowing the diplomatic off-ramps and accelerating the very disaster they fear. A frightened superpower becomes reckless. A rising power becomes overconfident. From bronze shields in ancient Greece to aircraft carriers and nuclear submarines today, the machinery changes. But human instincts, fear, ambition, and insecurity remain remarkably constant. The trap is always waiting. The only question is whether we have the wisdom to see the mechanism before it's too late.